Woke up this morning to a winter wonderland. It's just incredible out. So I had to take this opportunity to get on the trails while there's still snow on the trees and get the Mavic Mini 2 up, see if we can get some cool drone footage. And we're gonna get some good photos with the phone here today. So this one's gonna be fun. Let's stick around and check it out. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. You're gonna see all kinds of tips, tutorials, gear reviews, inspiration for your mobile photography. And today, I'm out here on the trails, not too far from my house. We had a very rare opportunity here in Vancouver Island. It doesn't snow very often, maybe 2-3 times a year. It's February right now, and we had some pretty decent snowfall last night. So I'm taking this opportunity to get out here and get some good shots with the phone, with the S20 Ultra, and gonna take some cool, hopefully some cool air footage with the Mavic Mini 2. Try and get above the tree line, looking down on all the snow and all the leaves. So I'm gonna find a good spot here, look for some good compositions, and I'll walk you through it. All right, so I've been walking around quite a bit here, and I've been having some troubles, honestly, with trying to find a composition. Trying to capture the beauty and the fluffiness and how amazing it is out here in a photo is pretty tough. It's not just quite as easy as just snapping a picture, especially when you're in the woodlands here. Woodland photography is very difficult to do. But after walking for quite some time, playing around with a few photos, I did come across this this pathway here that no one's walked down, and I've got the tripod set up here. I've got my composition lined up, and I'm going to try a couple things. I'm going to walk you through here. I'm going to try with the 108 megapixel regular camera mode here on the Samsung S20 Ultra. And to be honest with you, it's not something that I use very often because I'm always using pro mode, especially when I'm taking my waterfall pics that you see. And because I got to slow down that shutter speed, and I want full manual control over that camera. In this situation here, I don't need to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the option on there for the 108 megapixel camera. We're going to take a photo with that. Then I'm going to switch to Pro mode, which knocks it down to 12 megapixels. And I'm going to take a photo, and I'll put them both up on the screen after, and you can let me know which one you think looks better, or if you can even tell the difference. So let me know down in the comments after you see these photos. Now, if you've got an S20 or an S21 Ultra, they do have a 108 megapixel sensor option. Now, technically, it's not really a 108 megapixel sensor. What they've done is they called it pixel binding. So it's a 12 megapixel sensor, and they've taken each of the individual 12 megapixels and split them up into 9 individual pixels, which equals 108 megapixels. So it's called pixel binding. They've gotten around. Samsung's gotten around to get that small sensor into 108 megapixels, but by doing so, when you're splitting up the 12 main into 9 smaller ones, each individual 12 megapixel into 9 smaller ones to equal 108, that megapixel is so small, it doesn't allow a lot of light in there. But it does take a very nice high-res, high-format photo that I have tried a few times, and you can really use it well to crop in your photos. You got a lot of room there. So let's take a look at what I have here. So you can see straight through on here is I've centered the shot on either side. And actually what I'm using here too is the Moment 18mm wide lens. And I've got the camera, the phone tilted down a little bit. And what that's doing, it's elongating this path and kind of accentuating it. So it gives it more dynamic. It just looks nicer versus not having that wide lens on there. So anytime I use the Moment wide lens, I tend to kind of tilt the camera down a bit. So when whatever's in your foreground gets elongated. And depending on what that foreground is, it can make for a really nice picture. So in this case, I wanted to accentuate that pathway and make it more prominent. So that's why I put that wide lens on there. So I also like here is this branches that are hanging down through the middle. It kind of frames the top end so you're not staring at the sky or just some blank trees through the middle. So your eye is completely on both sides, following the pathway right down to the center of the photo down that path. The thing with taking photos in the snow that I really like is on how amazing that snow makes everything contrast so well. It's almost like when you're in woodland photography and you've got some fog. It adds a bit of depth in between and separation between all the trees. And with snow, it kind of almost does the same thing, but it adds so much more contrast to your photo. So let's switch to, the first thing, if you want to switch to 108 megapixel, right at the top here is push that button, and that gives you your different crop ratios. So right on the left hand side is a 3:4 ratio, crop ratio, and that's your 108 megapixel. Diamond, come here. And I've got it lined up pretty much where I want it to go. Let's just put a timer on there for 2 seconds to make sure I'm not bumping anything. And we'll give this one a go. Okay, so now we've got the 108 megapixel shot. Let's switch over to Pro mode. And we'll lower that ISO down to 50. Touch that shutter speed. Slow it down. And probably right about there, 1/250th of a second. The thing with the snow, I don't have an ND filter on there, and there's so much white in there that the sensor's telling me that I'm overexposed by 0.7 stops. So you can see at the bottom of the screen there, just to the right of that shutter button is your exposure rating. So you have a plus and minus sign there, and it says plus 0.7. So that's 0.7 stops of light. It's saying it's overexposed. Let's go to manual focus. And not quite to infinity, just back it off a little bit there. White balance, I never really change. I always leave the white balance on on auto. And still 2 second timer. Let's give that one a try. There we go. All right, so I'm going to take those 2 photos and I'm going to edit them in Lightroom on my phone. And then I'll put them up here for you, and let me know if you can see a difference in these 2 photos between the 108 megapixel and the 12 megapixel in Pro mode. Okay, so I found one more composition here. It's been a bit of a struggle today. The forest that I'm in is all second growth forest, and sometimes it's just not very interesting with these little small skinny trees, but I've gone farther down the trail and I found this cool tree I'm not sure what kind of tree it is, but it's got really all twisty branches on it. So it's quite interesting. You can see on the screen there. And you can see how I got it lined up. I got this branch right here going right out of that corner of the screen. I've got this branch coming around that corner of the screen. And I got the tree trunk itself pretty much centered right in the center of the image there. And you can kind of see all this billowy soft snow hanging on the foliage there. So it looks kind of cool. We're going to do the same thing as I did in the last image. We're going to take one right now with 108 megapixel in regular photo mode. And then I'm going to take it in pro mode. And we'll edit those up and see if we can see any difference between those two. So we'll take this shot right here. This is the 108 megapixel shot. And then we'll switch over to pro mode. And so we're underexposed there, so we're negative 1.3 stops. I'll bring that ISO up to 100 and slow the shutter speed down a little bit. What we got there? Plus 0.7, plus 1. Actually, plus 0.7 actually looks not too bad. Go right there. Check that focus. You see how it's highlighting in green? So that's called focus peaking, and that's letting you know everything that's got a sharp edge to it that's highlighted in green is going to tell you what's in focus. So if I back that off, you can see nothing's in focus, nothing's highlighted in green. The more closer I get to infinity, the more we're getting. Infinity's a little bit too far. Back it off a bit. Right there. So that'll be a good focus. Let's give that a try. White balance is set to auto 5700 Kelvin. 2-second timer. There we go. Okay, edit those up. I'll put them up on the screen now and you let me know if you can see a difference. All right, so now that we got a couple of pictures out of the way, a couple of compositions there for you, let's show you some juicy drone footage. Let's check it out. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I'm gonna head home and warm up. My toes and my fingers are numb. But I hope you got something out of this. If you did, give it a like, give it a thumbs up down below. Consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And we'll see you next week. Thanks again.